Hey there, welcome to the TBH with Toby B. Hemingway podcast. This is the monthly digest of stories from my Substack, TBH with Toby B. Hemingway, which you can find at tbhemingway.substack.com. I do about an essay a week, and then once a month I wrap it up here. This month was a little different. I didn't do 4 essays. I did 2 and then 1 voice memo, funnily enough, which works well for a podcast. At the end of September into October, I was doing a series called Election Land 2024 about what it was like to be in the States during yet another crazy election season. And then in November, in the month we're wrapping up here, all that came to a head. And by the 8th, I think it was, when I posted my first thing for November, I wasn't quite ready to write anything yet. It had I don't know, man, it caught up with me or something. Writing about it was taxing after a while, and I was sort of happy to stop writing about it. And then I just sort of wanted to process the new reality with a new political movement taking over, which I haven't fully done yet. So then I wrote about, also this month, about not really reading much news, which I know is kind of somewhat popular opinion among, left-leaning individuals like myself at the moment. Like, oh, I can't bear to read it. But I've been thinking about, why I've been doing that, and I think it's connected to also to a decision to be less on social media over the past 6 months or so, and just generally try to worry about what's right in front of me. And part of the problem with following politics is that you start to spend a lot of time worrying about things that aren't right in front of you. So I guess it's all part of the same thing. And it's been weird. Sometimes people tell me things and I have no idea that thing happened like a week ago or a month ago. And normally I would know that. But I still read and talk to people, and I think know vaguely what's going on in the world. Anyway, maybe you're experiencing a similar thing. I don't know. But it's been good focusing on what's in front of me, I think. I also wrote about Thanksgiving. Of course, we just had Thanksgiving. I had a piece of writing that I'd done a while ago when I was writing a bunch of stuff about food. And I was recalling my first Thanksgiving when me and my taller brothers happened to be in Memphis, Tennessee, amongst other places. We were sort of traveling around, and we ended up at a Shoney's all-you-can-eat in Memphis for Thanksgiving. Not a great meal, but a memorable time. Hence I wrote about it, and furthermore just wrote about the fact that often, particularly when it comes to turkey, the meal is not good. The turkey, everyone's tried different ways of roasting the turkey. I wrote last year about deep frying turkeys. If you want to watch some shocking sort of funniest home video style videos on YouTube sometime, check out the countless videos of people really, really screwing up deep frying turkeys. You've got a big pot of boiling oil, a large bird, and an open flame. So, yeah, it's chaotic. Anyway, I wrote about that last year, but this year I wrote about how sometimes the turkey is the worst thing, and it's and then, as if to prove me completely wrong, I go to Thanksgiving at some friends a day or so after I posted that, and my God, did they put on a hell of a spread? I mean, this friend he's like the best cook I know, so you know, I was on a good thing, and boy, he delivered. Fantastic. So that was fun. And now we are on the steep and slippery slope toward Christmas for those who go in for Christmas, and with two children my age, I tell you what, they're all in for Christmas. So here we go. But I feel like we're on top of the presents this year. I feel like we're doing a pretty good job. We got in early. Anyway, that's enough. I'll move on to the stories. Like I said, just 3 this month. I hope you enjoy them. And I won't be posting one of these again probably until the new year. So happy holidays. Enjoy yourself. Take care. Please subscribe to this podcast if you like. All that helps. Also, if you want to support the writing, make sure you subscribe to the Substack, tbhemingway.substack.com. If you are already, thank you very much. And yeah, please subscribe to this, like it, review it if you like. That really helps support us too. And enjoy the stories. See you next time. No Words, from November 8, 2024. Editorial note, as the title suggests, I didn't write this one, couldn't write that day or that week, so it was just a voice memo. Hey there. I was going to try to write this week, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to you, to myself. This is the week of post-election post-mortems, I guess. Everyone's got a hot take. I don't particularly, and trying to write about a second Trump presidency just didn't sound like a lot of fun. And I didn't really have anything new to say. I don't think. I'm just here trying to understand it, but not understand it in a political sense, like a how does he win and why did Kamala lose kind of sense, but just in the sense of understanding what it means when notions of right and wrong are inverted, I guess. You know, you spend a lot of time teaching your kids to be kind and honest and understanding and respectful and humble and basically polite, good people. And for a long time, the president of the United States was sort of a role model, the role model. If you do everything right, one day you could be the president. But that's been turned on its head. I don't think it's particularly liberal or I don't know, coastal elite, to use the parlance of our times, as Lebowski once said, to think that these are all things that everyone tries to teach their children. I don't think my kids have ever gone to a school where they don't talk about those things. And now we have a person who doesn't stand for any of those things in that position. So that's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard to explain it to your kids, but it's also hard for me. It's hard for me to think about why I bothered to take the shopping trolley back in this world, or, you know, let someone in traffic, or park my car within the lines, or thank someone for serving me a meal, or it's hard being good, I guess. It's easier to be bad, and easier is winning. And maybe that's not a surprise. You know, America is a land of convenience. And I think it's more convenient to not care. I haven't watched the news. I didn't watch any news on election night. I don't plan on checking in on the news for a while. I'm done writing about the election. I'm done thinking about it. You know, a lot of people talk about they write because it helps them understand the world or figure things out. I'm not particularly one of those people. I think I write to express myself, hopefully entertain people, and hopefully give people a point of connection with other humans. But I don't do it to try and figure stuff out in my head. So it wasn't, I think that's why I was having a hard time writing this week. I'm not going to figure this out writing. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to figure it out. I won't figure what out. Figure out people, Americans, voters. I don't know. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to figure that stuff out, writing or not. But to anyone in the United States who's taking this hard, I get it. To anyone who's celebrating this, well, I'm surprised you're listening. Hi, and to people who aren't here, all I can say is that there's much more of a sense of life goes on after this one in a funny way. I think we're also shocked in 2016 when Trump got in, but this time it's like, yeah, here we go again. But look, I don't know. Yeah, here we go again. Life goes on. I'm going to try not to write about politics for a while. Hopefully next week I'll be in a better place to write about something else. Anything else. Suggestions are welcome. And I'm just going to keep trying to do the right thing, I guess. Because I don't know. That's what I know. That's what makes me feel okay. And hopefully my kids will do the same. Sorry I couldn't write anything. Yeah, I'll get back to you. News fasting in an alternate reality from November 21, 2024. For a few precious days last week in New Mexico with my wife and no kids, my priorities were much different than usual. For starters, I didn't write for this newsletter. Sorry, or not. Maybe you and I both needed a break. I burned 20 minutes in a hotel lobby waiting for someone to find missing complimentary slippers, pondered the best time to go for dinner, considered having a drink at any given moment, weighed the benefits of different hot spring minerals, debated breakfast in the room or restaurant. Big decisions all when you suddenly have nothing else to do. It was an alternate reality, a parallel universe. Aside from a short election debrief with my wife, I never worried about politics once on our trip, nor heard anyone else talking about it. Instead, I complained about a perfectly decent food and a broken kettle and my aches and pains. I talked to a barman in Santa Fe about the angle of the sun hitting the bar this time of year and how often he likes to go skiing. When we checked into a lovely hotel for our last night away, the room wasn't ready. Hotel rooms are never ready until the very last minute these days. Another thing I had the luxury of complaining about last week. The desk clerk offered up the library for us to relax in, where he suggested we could turn on some television news if we liked. For the love of God, no, I almost shrieked. How was he to know I've been on a special news diet? It's the only way I can cope. I peek at the apps, but mostly look for sporting results or analysis rather than real news. I'm trying to ride out the seasonal New Yorker phase of non-stop Trump covers and Democratic hand-wringing, patiently longing for the return of excellent articles about nothing. Copies of the Los Angeles Times go from the driveway to the kitchen to the recycling bin without ever shedding their plastic wrapping. It's like a trendy fasting diet, I guess, except that I ingest almost no news and eat and drink even more. I'm not naive. I know elections have consequences. This time 8 years ago, resistance was in the air, and I inhaled it with vigour. But life is full of interlacing and conflicting realities. Our sun was in the terrible twos then, headed for the surprise, completely fucking bonkers threes, and we had a very real resistance to deal with at home. 4 years later, when a mob tried to overtake the capital, I was at the park, pushing his 3-year-old sister on a swing, desperately trying to keep her occupied for another long day of childcare. 4 years later again, we're talking middle schools, math tutors and student council. This is the universe I live in most days, parallel or otherwise. Real life is relentless and oblivious to Washington power. I'm exhausted and on edge half the time already. Without beer and donuts to pep me up, I don't know what I'd do. A few days after this month's election, I took my kids to a mall to pick out some winter clothes. At the Gap, my now 7-year-old daughter was finding ways to nudge me away from the abundant cotton tees and jersey pullovers toward an elegant sheer tulle blouse. I begged her to think about what was most appropriate for her actual day-to-day lifestyle. "You don't get it, Dad," she pleaded. "In my head, I'm older. I was born that way. I'm like a teenager already." I looked right into my sweet daughter's innocent little face and tried desperately not to laugh right at it. Oh, to be that age, when alternate realities so easily held sway. 4 more years, and I can't imagine what the world would look like. I do know she'll almost be a teen by then. For real. No Turkey Blues, from November 27th, 2024. By the time my 2 older brothers and I arrived at Shoney's for our first meal of the day, the sun was already going down over Memphis again, and even in low light we cast rather pathetic figures. Sweating in the cold late fall air, hungry, desperate for a drink, and recoiling from the chain restaurant's bright fluorescent lights, we very gingerly approached our first Thanksgiving dinner. In the days leading up to Thanksgiving 1994, my older brothers and I didn't give much thought to what or where we'd eat on the big day. Instead, we piled into a blood-red upholstered rental car, the overly accessorized kind, seemingly built around cup holders that I always picture when considering the nadir of American auto manufacturing, hung over again, and took on the day's drive from Champaign, Illinois to Memphis, Tennessee, speeding through corners of Missouri and Arkansas, snacking on Ho-Hos and Sprite, just trying to reach the home of the blues with enough good hours left till closing time. Like most of what we knew about American customs then, the Thanksgiving tradition had spilled out into our home from birth through the glorifying lens of our beloved television. From MASH to Different Strokes and every American show in between, Thanksgiving was a thing. People did it together, with family typically, and everything seemed to center around a turkey. Now my oldest brother had been living in the heart of America for almost a semester, living in a dorm at the University of Illinois. Like the television had opened up and they invited him in, as Australian songwriter Pete Lawler once so succinctly put it. When my middle brother and I came to visit, the long holiday weekend represented little more than a perfect pocket of time within his study schedule to take a road trip. I wasn't thinking about gratitude or feasting or even family particularly. I was just excited to be in America again, with the 2 men I'd followed into bars and shared records with for as long as I had been able. Memphis is one of America's most fabled music cities. I was a budding guitar player, and we'd all idolized America's musical legends growing up. Sun Studios, Beale Street, and Graceland were ingrained in our collective imagination and high on our itinerary, as were the many watering holes along the way. My oldest brother spoke fondly of a place on Beale Street that served cocktails in goblets at happy hour prices. It was our first stop of many. Ever since arriving in Urbana-Champaign and taking in the spectacle of college bars and dorm parties, my middle brother and I hadn't really bothered to move our sleeping hours much from Melbourne time. An afternoon to early morning routine suited our planned social activities just fine. Our eldest brother, who had taught us almost everything we knew about drinking, had no trouble adjusting either. So it was that we came to wake up that Thanksgiving afternoon, sprawled across a twin room at the Admiral Benbow Inn. As little brother, I always got the floor, with no grand plan, hungry and confused, which was fitting, really, given that the hotel was famous in Australia for a sordid episode involving a former Prime Minister, Malcolm Fraser, who woke up there in 1986 without his wallet, luggage or clothing, and no recollection of how he'd arrived. We stepped out onto the chilly concrete walkway, suspended above a smattering of parked cars, past multiple empty rooms and the broken ice machine, to find a city largely shut down. Having grown up at a time when opening your business on Sundays and public holidays was still against the law, I was struck with fear. Nowhere to eat, nowhere to drink. My eldest brother, on the other hand, was by now more au fait with the capitalist American spirit, and knew that holiday or not, somewhere someone would sell us something. We just had to get back into the rental car and drive. If you've never been to a Shoney's, let me stop right here and say don't rush. It falls into a unique class of American restaurant where core principles of value and convenience merely facilitate the obligatory injection of calories into one's body. What food they serve and who might prepare it for you on any given day are minor details, no more pressing than any other piece of the restaurant's infrastructure, such as door hinges or table legs. These establishments are generally beside large roads and are made up of a series of concentric circles, beginning with a parking lot, then a beige-toned structure, and finally a 360-degree buffet at its centre. There is a kitchen in the building somewhere, I assume, but they seem determined to ensure that you never see it, for fear you may then think about it. The food appears, then disappears, as you can eat as much as you like or as little as you like. There are no culinary sensibilities to offend in this forum, and I suppose that's the idea. The host assured us that the Thanksgiving dinner was still available, then took our money up front as if we were entering a carnival ride, before seating us by one of the many windows facing a parked car. It didn't take us long to realise that though there was technically food still available, they were clean out of turkey. The very cornerstone of our naive and purely imagined Thanksgiving experience was gone. Yet still, 30 years later, I remember it. Other parts of the trip flash across my mind like slides in an old toy Viewmaster. B.B. King's Blues Bar, Elvis's Aeroplane, the tiny white studio where the $1 Million Quartet once jammed, being introduced to cornbread by the hotel cook. But it's the Thanksgiving meal that remains most complete, somehow, regardless of how bad the food was. Maybe because of that. There we were, the three of us, at the same table, with nowhere else to be. A scenario which grows rarer and rarer as the years have passed. We try so hard to feed our loved ones well, especially on holidays, but so often we fail. Cooking is a cruel and imperfect science, rarely taught by professionals. Turkey is always the worst Thanksgiving dish anyway, I've since learned. It's who you complain about it with that counts. Sitting at Shoney's that evening, hunched over like defeated card sharks, gulping free soda refills and chewing rubbery strips of ham, the edges hardened by a long day under bain-marie light, my middle brother grew more and more agitated by the injustice we were enduring. He'd been clean suckered into this meal, he felt, and there certainly wasn't any reason we should double down now by tipping the waitstaff. Although the significance of turkey as a ceremonial dish was new to us all, scrutinizing costs was an old habit of my middle brother. Even when we went out to eat with our parents as kids, he always showed a particular interest in the bill. At the end of a restaurant meal, our father eventually took to handing him the cushioned little black folio to carefully run the numbers against what we had ordered. If my brother found an error in our favour and the restaurant corrected it, my father would give him the erroneous sum in cash. His vigilance had not waned, and the idea of tipping these criminals at Shoney's drove him into a mild rage, fueled by a deeply rooted suspicion of the whole practice of mandatory tipping, harboured by almost all non-Americans I've ever dined with. Just a visitor to the country myself at the time, I could see his point, but didn't say much. My older brother, having studied law in the US for the past few months, argued otherwise. It was most likely a mistake by the host. It was certainly no fault of the other staff who'd served us, and besides, they were working on Thanksgiving, which was hard enough. These were good arguments. I had nothing further. It was 2-1. We skipped dessert, left a tip, and went out to find a real drink. That's it for November of 2024. Thanks again for reading and for listening and for subscribing. tbhemingway.substack.com is where you can check this stuff out most weeks and have it delivered to your inbox. I will not badger you, I promise. All the music you hear is either me noodling around in my office on the guitar or from my old band Horse Stories. This particular track is from an album called November. Check it out on the streamers and whatnot if you like. Thanks again. Subscribe to all the places, and I'll see you for the month of December. We're rounding up this year. What a year. Good God. Bye for now.